Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to On the Spot Motorsports Media. I'm your host, Mitchell Gunter. Tonight, we have Summer Richardson joining us. She is a top alcohol driver in the NHRA. We're going to talk to her a little bit about that, but we're also going to go back where she was racing boats and talk about some of the records that she broke while doing that before she moved over to the NHRA. So, before we get started, we'd like to thank our sponsors that make everything happen. First up is Team GRE, Goolsby Racing Enterprises. Hey, if you need a boat wrapped, a car, or you just need some signage for your business, give them a call at 352-870-7258. Also, on the spot lawn maintenance. That's right. It is raining and the grass is growing. So if you need your yard mowed, give them a call at 904-966-1633. Also, don't forget about our sister show, On the Spot with David Rogers, as they talk about politics and all local news and happenings around the world. Coming up on October the 27th and 28th at Gainesville Raceway is the 8th annual 352 Shootout. This event has several different classes for cars to run. They even do a car show and part of the festivities there. So come on out and enjoy yourself and have a good time.
Hey Tornado fans, this is Kurt Miracle of Miracle Automotive and Towing, proud sponsors of Tornado Football. I want to welcome you to beautiful Stark, Florida at David Hurst Stadium, and thank you for letting us be a part of this community. We're here for more than your automotive and towing needs. We're here to be part of Tornado Country. Go Big Red!
60 years of innovation, 60 years of attention to detail, 60 years of rigorous testing under race conditions is what makes ATI Performance Products great. ATI has been helping racers like you reach the finish line first. Today, we manufacture a wide range of high-performance parts that are track-tested and race-proven. We're passionate about performance, and that passion is what drives you to the finish line first. See everything ATI has to offer at ATIRacing.com.
All right, Ms. Richardson, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us tonight and talk a little bit about motorsports and your career. You know, you started it off running boats, and now you're in a top alcohol dragster. But I know your goal is to get to the nitro category.
Correct. Thank you, Mitchell, for having me on the show tonight with everything. I believe you actually are my first podcast live ever, believe it or not. So thank you for having me. Yes, Top Fuel Nitro is the goal. That's what I'm working towards. And it's been the goal as of about 4.5 years ago when I actually started racing on asphalt from racing on water. So.
Well, to get started, when did you actually get involved and start racing on water?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of a long story, but I grew up around boats, and it goes back to even growing up, watching my dad drag boat race all through the 80s and a little bit into the 90s. And we've always been a boating family. We've always been a performance family. And so from there, we kind of got into power boats. We had friends that were building power boats at the time. And the next thing I knew, I was 14 years old, and we had our first twin engine boat in the family. And I told my dad, I said, hey, I want to learn how to drive this twin engine boat. And ever since then, I kind of really loved being on the big power boats. And so our family and even my husband's family, we've all been involved with the power boats. And they started having these events called Desert Storm out in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. And they had king and queen as fastest female and fastest male to run these shootouts. And at that time, it was a mile-long course. and you would just basically try to top your speed and your boat you had at the time. And as I got kind of a little bit older, I saw a female at the time that was doing it. And I said, no, I would like to try it out. I should probably just do it one year and just jump into the boat and see if I even like it. And sure enough, I think it was back in, oh man, I would say probably 2013, 2014. I was doing the shootouts, and at the time, I actually was in a 32 DCB powerboat twin engine, and I did my very first shootout run with my dad in the boat with us, or with me. And then from that point on, I did it for about 5 years after that, and topped my speeds and was the solo fastest female powerboat driver as Queen of the Desert. And it was a thrill of being able to drive these big, powerful boats and getting out there and running against the guys and watching all the spectators and everybody that comes out for these events. And it's really a really neat event in Lake Havasu. And also there was other places that were doing this as well. We traveled to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, and we did a few of those events as well out there. So it was something that was a big part of us for quite some time. And it kind of started changing course a little bit when we were getting close to reaching close to 200 miles per hour on the boat. And I solo was just driving the boat and doing this on my own. And at the time, I was in my mom and dad's 388 powerboat skater, and it had twin PSI deals in it. And the boat can definitely go well over 190s into the 200 mile per hour range. And I was out there and I topped my speed at 185 on their GPS. And that at that point, it was a moment in my life where it was exciting, but I went, oh my God, I just did that. And that was like near death experience. So we kind of started changing paths a little bit because it's a lot of fun doing this. A lot of people like to go out there and top their fastest speeds in the classes and the different categories in the shootouts. And but what ends up happening is you're pushing these speeds, you're on water, you're on a forever moving surface, and so many other elements come into play. And there was becoming more and more accidents that were happening out there. Right. And it just wasn't fair to my family for me to keep going out there and pushing my own top speeds and try and break my records and having something happen to me. So we ended up changing paths because I want to still compete and inspire women and drive really, fast, machines. And so 4.5 years ago, we went ahead and made the switch to drag racing. So,
well, you talk about that boat. Now that boat was putting out over 1,000 horsepower.
Oh yes. We're talking about over 2,000 horsepower. So it was, yes. Yeah. And, when having twin engines is just, there's, a lot more can happen having a twin engine boat when you're going those top speeds. And really at the time, there wasn't much safety that you can really do in a boat. We had a lanyard that was connected to a kill switch. We had a life vest on, and you had a helmet. And that was basically it, Right. So it's kind of one of those things, if, you end up blowing over or something happens, like mechanical dysfunction, you're really not going to survive the incident, So it was I was definitely kind of hitting that kind of those boundaries there and pushing the limits a little bit. So,
well, I kind of can see the reason why you wanted to make the change over from racing on water to actually racing with something that's got wheels. You got a roll cage around you, a lot more safety equipment to keep you safe. And the one thing that we all want to do, we all want to go back home the way that we went to the track. We don't want to have any other visits anywhere else. We don't want to go visit the hospital for a week or two.
We've had too many friends go and be out that way with things, and it's kind of like, no, that's just not what I want to do, and that's what ended up happening. Is like, I really enjoyed the power boats. I really enjoyed being out there with the fans and the people and supporting, our boating industry through that. But at the same time, I had to really think about my family, my safety, and and knowing me, I'm super competitive, so I like to just kind of push myself. And I knew, if I didn't get out of it, that eventually something could happen, and that's just not fair. So,
right. Well, when you started to make the switch over to drag racing, you actually went out and purchased a super comp car from NHRA racer Sean Langdon's dad.
Yes, Chad Langdon.
Chad Langdon.
Yes. So what ended up happening is my family at the time was just kind of like, okay, well, if you want to continue racing, what do you kind of want to get into? And I said, I've always been interested in top fuel dragsters. That's just something I always thought was really sexy car, and just like, and it's beastie and it goes fast. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to waste anybody's time. I'm going to go ahead and make the switch, and I'm going to work towards that goal of going top fuel one day and kind of reaching that. So we switched over. Super Comp is where we started with everything. Actually, I started with the Frank Hawley school, right? And did that. And I got my super gas and my super comp license. And my dad somehow found out that Chad Langdon was selling his super comp car at the time. So we ended up purchasing that, and I ended up being the guinea pig for a good year for everybody.
Well, to get back to, going to school there at Frank Hawley School, the one thing I hear a lot about Mr. Hawley is that a lot of it is just regular classroom time, teaching you how to slow everything down, how to process stuff, teach you how your eyes actually focus and see the tree, and how your brain reacts. And those are all very important components before you even hit the track. And he's really famous for taking that classroom time, talking to his students, and getting that part across.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He kind of like made me nervous at first. Taking his class, that's what I loved about him. I mean, not everyone passed in the class. There were several people that did not get their license, and he just wouldn't give it out just because you were there attending.
Right.
He went through everyone in the class. He put up your run in front of everybody. He would talk to you about what, we can improve on. And, he was great at, like you talked about, slowing everything down, how the mind processes from here to your muscles and on down, and the thought process and everything like that. And I loved him. I loved being there in the class. I'm really glad that I did it. And it was something that I was kind of trying to learn his personality. I figured when he came over to you next in line, because he would go through everybody in the class, and once he kind of got to you, he had nothing to say, and then he moved on to the next person, you knew that you did good.
And I'm glad he is that that way, because he wants to keep every driver safe. And if you're not quite ready for those licenses, you don't get them, and that's the way it should be. Mm-hmm. I agree with him 100%, because it's very important keeping that driver safe and the competitor next to him down the track. So my hat's off to him for doing that. And I tell you what, another instructor that same way is Roy Hill. Me and Roy Hill, we've got to know each other very well over the past couple of years. And Roy will pull somebody out of the car and make them sit up in the bleachers and watch. Absolutely. And then he'll come back to him and say, are you ready to listen to me and do what I say? I'm trying to keep you safe. I don't want you to do something on your own, because you're here to learn, not do what is natural for you. And so them are really key parts.
Yes. And Frank definitely is all about safety, 100% out there. I got my super gas and my super comp license through him, and it was something I'm glad I did too, because like just knowing the proper procedures and, and the rules of everything. And I'm glad I just didn't have someone just kind of sign me off and try to just kind of push me on through with things. And, I was terrified actually at the time to do a burnout. And he kind of, slowed me down and kind of worked me with everything and put the cones out there and how far the burnout should be. And I'm really happy that we did that. And actually it's funny, and at Baby Gators, he came by the pits and we ended up talking for a good at least half an hour. And it was like everything came like full circle, with stuff. And that was my first event out with the Top Alcohol Dragster. So it's kind of funny because we were kind of reliving some things again.
Right. Now, Frank Hawley's not the only drag racing school that you actually attended.
Right. So
you
Tom
actually
Baird,
attended a secondary school.
Yes, so Tom Bear. So I did SuperCom for about 2 years, and I knew I wanted to keep moving up. SuperCom is a very hard class. I mean, I give mad respect to everybody that's in the class. I mean, some great drivers. You really got to kind of know your driving, and you know all the different angles. And I believe SuperCom really makes you a great driver. And if you have a chance to do that first before kind of moving up, I would definitely recommend SuperCom. But I want to keep moving forward and kind of go faster and get into the bigger things. And so I went to Top Dragster and I got licensed by Tom Bear, School Drag Racing. And he's another great teacher because he's kind of the same as Frank. He's very calm, collected. I'm a very bubbly, I'm very energetic, I'm very loud. So he likes to kind of come over and be like, okay, let's kind of ground ourselves. Let's kind of walk through things. And I work well with coaches that are like that are very grounded and more quiet, because I'm better at listening that way, right? Versus somebody that's, a coach that's a little bit more aggressive. Tom is very knowledgeable, and he is just, he reads the student, and then he knows how to kind of work with you and kind of take the time with you with things.
Right.
I love that about Tom. Yes.
And I think there's another top alcohol dragster driver that went through that same program with him, and that was Madison Payne.
Yes.
I think she actually attended at school
Yes.
there as well.
She did. I think she was with him for a good year underneath of his program. I got licensed only, and then we went right into just me doing my own Top Dragster program. But here and there, if I ever had questions, I can always come up to Tom, and he was always willing to help us out. And because we were trying to learn the class as well again, it was like learning something all over, with another new car I had and things like that. So Tom has always been very helpful, and he's another person that I'm glad that I went through him for licensing, and and kind of his ways of teaching as well. And they are very similar to Frank. I believe they actually worked together in the past, right? Frank and Tom.
I don't know that. I'll have to ask
Maybe.
Mr. Holly next time I see him at the track. But
So, yes, I highly recommend both of them. So if you guys ever need licensing, both are great.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about your success in both of those classes?
Oh boy, it's been more rough than success, I would say. Super Comp was, I think, I ended up kind of winning one of the shootouts, the Super 8 shootouts, my first year in Super Comp in Sonoma. I won the races there. But other than that, I've been in, a class for only a year or two, and I kind of been jumping to the next one. And I think too, at the same time, my family and all of us have been kind of trying to learn a whole new way of, motorsports and racing, and kind of getting involved with, the cars and the setups, and, just from bracket racing to super comp racing, index racing, right? So there's been a lot in between, I think. And it's just, I haven't really been able to sit and kind of really just focus on one without kind of already moving into the other.
Right.
So I wouldn't say I have had huge success, but it's something that I've been taking a little bit with, and just learning these skill sets and trying to apply them as I keep growing as a racer. So,
Well, it gave you the opportunity to use each of those classes as stepping stones to get
yes.
where you're at,
Mhm.
and get familiar how things go for each class.
Mhm.
Uh, how to calm yourself if you get really nervous or something doesn't go your way before you get on the stage your car in the beams, and all those are really good lessons to learn to keep
Right.
yourself calm. And I know sometimes I catch myself something like the car won't start in the staging lanes, and and getting kind of freaked out about it. Someone's running me a battery charger to jump the car off, and and you just have to sit there and take a deep breath and say, okay, that's over. It's time to get back to focusing and getting ready to run down the track. So
Right.
all those racing those different classes has probably helped you a lot.
Yes. And I know some people may not even do a super comp or a class prior to wanting to jump into the more professional classes. But I'm so glad I did, because like you said, it's really put that foundation down for me. and been able to, kind of navigate through that as well. So I wouldn't change anything with that. So.
Well, I've got a lot of comments here from Steve. He's saying that you are going to make one great Top Fuel driver.
Aw, thank you so much, Steve. Aw, lots of love.
So heading up to the Gator Nationals, you go out, you get your alcohol license for the dragster, and you were pretty much already eyeing the Gator Nationals, wasn't you?
Yeah. So I was there for the regional. The car was already taken for
Right.
the national event. And
The Baby
yes,
Gators.
yes, the baby gators and everything. And I wanted to kind of, Randy kind of mentioned to me saying, hey, we should probably do the babies, just so you can kind of get familiar with the car, since Houston with testing with everything. I only had 3 runs in the car, and he was like, we're done when I did the licensing stuff. So just to kind of get my feet back in the car before we jumped right into a national event in Pomona. And so actually that was my first time there at that track in Gainesville. Of course, first round, I'm with my teammate Julie, and we have the 2 fastest cars, and somehow we get teamed up. And I'm like, any other round, I would have won that round.
Oh, definitely. And you was not very off of getting her either. You know, you
No.
talk about you're getting your license in the alcohol dragster. You actually rent a 518 at 272 miles an hour, and that was your very first full run in that
Yes.
car.
Yes, it was wild. It was funny because I did my little quick half track pass, and then the next one was my full, right? And I went on down the track, and at the end of the track, one of the guys from the crew comes over and he says, Summer, I'm still trying to get my helmet all off and everything. Like, Summer, do you realize how fast you just went? I'm like, I can't tell you because my first time going down the track. I don't know what's fast and not in this car, And he's like, you ran a 518. I'm trying to like calculate. He's like, that's crazy fast. So on the second run, Randy had to slow me down a little bit.
Yeah, that actually win some national events right there with the 518.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. It was wild too. So I felt it when the shoots came out.
So making your debut at Gainesville, what was the most rewarding part about it?
Ooh. I think just making the show and being able to just do the first round out there, and being able to qualify. We had a great weekend. The car ran great. Knowing too, like for myself, that I did well performance wise, and I was able to kind of get that, kind of done and know that everything went well. But just to be able to qualify and making the show, that was already exciting enough for me. Just to be able to go down and make a first round pass. So.
And don't get me wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. But when you run regional events like that, it's only 8 cars, correct? That make the
8
field.
cars. That's
So
it.
you got all these cars there already. They're competing in the
Yes.
regional, getting ready for the Gator Nationals. So I don't know how many actual top alcohol cars were on the property, but it was more than 16.
It was busy. Yes, it was full and everyone fighting to get in. And yeah, I qualified, I think, second for the first 2 qualifiers. And then I got bumped to either 4th or 5th at the very last qualifier. But yeah, I mean, just to even be holding that place and in the qualifying and be able to make the show, knowing only 8 was able to get in, that was pretty exciting. So.
And that's a hard task to do. It is a really hard task with that many cars on property, and everyone's trying to wiggle their way in, trying to hit the bump spot. There's some that actually went a couple rounds at the Gator Nationals that didn't even get into the regionals. So
right? I mean, literally, kind of like my thing in Vegas just recently. I mean, I'm in semifinals for the 4 wide, but I didn't qualify and make it for the regional. It's like crazy.
Right. And now when you were out in Vegas, you actually made it to the semifinals in the 4 wide.
Yes, made it to the semis. and Pomona, then my first national event, made to the semis as well. And I think doing the 4 wide, that's my first time ever doing a 4 wide. So it was a little bit, kind of nerve wracking at first. On my first day of qualifying, I had the 2 inner lanes, 2 and 3, and those are kind of the hardest ones to kind of run. And then when we did qualifying for the second day, I was able to get the outer lanes and get the kind of full effect. And some people have different opinions about the 4 wide. I think once I kind of got it, it didn't bother me as much, and I was just excited just to be racing on race day. So,
How does it make you feel to see young ladies, young girls come by your pit area and want an autograph?
oh, I love it. I love like the fans and when like people come by, especially the kids. I've had kids like do little like paint rocks for me and do drawings, and I mean I have some of them here in my office, and if I can, I'll even try to put them in the car and let them sit in there and get a picture. And I've done that even since Super Comp days. I think that's great, to be able to put the kids in the car and let them get the feel and ask questions and take pictures. I mean, that's our next generation coming up through motorsport. So absolutely. I love it. I love seeing the fans. So
Yeah, there was quite a bit of young ladies around the pit area when I came down to see you and stopping by and looking at your car. And that's the one thing I love about our sport, NHRA. It's open for women, men, to come out and compete. And I tell you, y'all ladies are pretty tough to race
oh yeah.
in every category. I was talking about racing some of the female racers that we have out there bracket racing. They're ready to cut your head off at the tree,
Oh yeah.
and just all the competitiveness of it is just great for the sport.
And there's more and more young women getting into motorsports across the board, everywhere, and I feel like women though are even more competitive than men sometimes. Yes.
I believe so. So, where's your next race going to take place at?
Oh my goodness. So I don't have a race until August in Brainerd. So yes, I was only signed in the car for 6 races this season. So basically I have Brainerd, and after that I'll be back to Vegas for the regionals. So
Okay.
yeah, I know I got a little bit of a break in between. I want to be able to be racing in between, but again, the car and other drivers, and we're all kind of like trying to fill in those other spots on other race dates everywhere.
Well, I know what one of your goals is to win. You want to be able to do that. And with the times and stuff that you ran at Gainesville, if you beat Julie, there's a very good chance that you walk away with with the Wally
Yes.
at the Baby Gators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's, like I said, I jumped into this next, into Top Alcohol Dragster just to try to get my feet wet, get some race strength my belt. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get a full season in, but just having the opportunity to be racing in Top Alcohol is something I've been working towards. Being able to get the sponsorships and and be able to get a team together and be able to be out there and kind of level up into Top Alcohol was really my goal for this year. So the fact that I've been able to get a couple of races in and I got 2 more, that's exciting for me. Of course, I'm working to get more races in and be able to kind of fill up maybe, something for next season. I'm already working on next season things. So I never stop marketing.
So, what kind of sponsors are you looking for to help you along in your adventure?
Oh boy. I think just sponsors that I'm going to kind of that represent me as well as far as who I am authentically as a racer. I am all about, anything with like, fitness or, stuff that's a little bit more edgier or, I like to be outside the box. So any
Right.
sponsors that are kind of looking to be more outside the box, I mean, I've always been that person. I know something too, like my goal is to eventually go top fuel, right? And I think one of my biggest passions, other than racing, is rescues and horses and things like that, right? I have 10 rescues on my property, and I've been riding horses since I was 5 years old, and that's been a really big other passion of mine other than motorsports. And to go top fuel and eventually maybe do something with a organization, that helps animals in some way, or dogs or something like that, to be a voice and be that billboard out there for them and be a part of something that gives back is truly what I would love to race for. So kind of like
Right.
race for rescues or race for a cause. That'd be more to me than, I mean, winning is obviously one thing, but making a difference using my race platform is really like the kind of why I want to continue racing and building on that platform. So
Well, it actually gives a marketing partner a great opportunity to invest something early with Top Alcohol. And if they're on board and they love it,
yeah,
you may have a sponsor that you can just take right over to
top fuel.
Nitro, Top
Yeah,
Fuel,
yeah.
build that partnership little by little.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about relationship building. I get people that I've been dealing with sponsorships from the boating days, and I've always, worked with, people to get the sponsors. And that's something that I've always done is the marketing side. I had my own social media company for about 6 years, and I sold it just last year. And so our, Sweet Motorsports brand comes from social media as well, and the powerboat side. And so marketing has always been in the, in the forefront of things, with our motorsports. And so, working with partnerships or sponsors has always been something that I'm very familiar with and comfortable with. And people have asked Summer, how do you get these sponsors or these partnerships? And it's building relationships and
Yes.
asking. I mean, they can tell you no, and you know what? You make your portfolio better. You do what you need to do to make changes. Like if you really want something, just keep going after it and keep knocking on their door. And just don't take no for an answer, or find a way. But, most people are just scared to ask. They're scared to send a pitch deck out. They're scared to reach out to someone that
Right.
maybe a brand that they really, are passionate about, that they stand by or support. So I think that's the biggest thing is taking that step forward and getting yourself out there, right? And that's something that I'm very comfortable in doing. And there are a couple, sponsors or people that I have in mind currently right now. And that's something I'm already working on and working towards. And I like working with, partnerships that, love who I am as an influencer and a racer. And my biggest thing is, I have brands that come to me all the time that, want to work with me. And, if it's a cigarette company, and it's hard for me to say that I love cigarettes and I don't smoke, like I've
Right.
had something like that in the past. I'm like, I can't fake smoking because that's just something I don't do, So there's things like that that I will not do because that's not authentically who I am and what I support or what I love. So
I agree with you 100% there. And networking it's a real big deal. I know, for instance, with me starting this podcast,
Mhm.
I've got around talking to drivers. I've known Erica Anders for a while. Talking to her when I actually started it, she has been a guest on my podcast several times. Christian Quadra, I got a friend named uh, Clark Papke that works for Steve Torrance Racing. He's helped me along the way of getting some guests to come on, and it's all about networking. And
Absolutely.
they know I always want to spread the positive light of our sport. I don't want to put a dim light on it whatsoever. And even
Yeah.
even though there's hardly ever any dim moments of our sport, because it's about attracting the younger viewers,
Hmm.
bringing them in, letting them know about our sport, and us growing it. I
Right.
had the opportunity at Gainesville to promote street legal drags. It was a great opportunity to talk to young kids in their teens and early 20s. And they're like, man, I always wanted a drag race. I said, it's easy. All you got to do is have a valid driver's license, come out here on a test and tune night, or you can come out here and bracket race and learn the sport from the
Right.
bottom. And I
Yeah.
says, we are about building the sport. We want our
Mhm.
sport to carry on for years and years to come.
Mhm. Absolutely, 100%. Even with some of these tracks that are closing down, and you're hearing how people are, getting upset over this because we need these tracks, for our younger generations and to keep the sport live and being able to put these programs in place too, like you just mentioned, to kind of give those opportunities to the younger racers and letting them know that there are other options to go race and have fun with your car and do these things, but in a safe environment as well. So
Right. And the racing community is like a big family anyway. If something happens to your car, you're going to have 3 or 4 racers walk over and say, hey, what can I do to help you out?
yes,
Uh, they'll want to, bash your brains in on the starting line, but after you get past the traps, it's all back to, a friendly family.
yeah,
That's what I love about our sport.
absolutely.
Um, but I want to again thank you for the opportunity of having you come on here tonight. Uh, do you want to mention anybody that works on your car before we go, and also how they can follow you on social media?
So you can follow me on social media on my Instagram handles, obviously at Mrs. Swoop or at our motorsports company, Swoop Motorsports, again on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram. You can also follow me on OnlyFans at Mrs. Swoop, as that is a platform that I've been using for a lot of my racing as well. So again, all those platforms, you're welcome to join and be a part of my racing along with my full throttle lifestyle with things. So,
Is Randy Meyer going to be helping you anymore in Brainerd, and when you return to Las Vegas to finish up?
so yes. So I have the car rented out. So I am not affiliated with Randy Meyer Racing. I
Right.
run our own Sweet Motorsports program. I know people have asked that and kind of been wondering like if I'm under his team with anything. No, I am not. Sweet Motorsports is who I race for and our motorsports program. And so yes, Randy is crew chiefing along with his crew on the car that I will be racing for Brainerd as well for the regional in Vegas.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got a guy that's helping you out with crew chief
Yeah,
duties. Very
yeah,
smart. They won a lot of national championships, and
yeah.
I see that his daughter is getting back in the car for a little while
Mm-hmm.
here and there. So that's great. She's a great racer and a wonderful family.
Yes, yes. Randy's great. I've been learning a lot from him, and happy that I'm having the opportunity that I have this season with him and learn as much as I can as well. So
All right. Well, I do appreciate it. I wish you the best on the rest of your season. Hopefully, you'll pick up a win up there in Brainerd. I'll be rooting for you and watching. But again, thank you, and we'll try it again to have you on at another time.
absolutely, Mitchell. Thank you again for having me tonight live on your podcast, and I look forward to being back on here again. So
I just hope this pollen goes away really soon.
I know, you poor thing. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for bearing through it with me.
No problem. Thank you so much, and have a
Thank you,
wonderful afternoon.
Mitchell. Have a good night.
Good night. And there she goes. We want to again appreciate everyone coming on board tonight and watching this at On the Spot Motorsports Media. Don't forget this weekend the Four Wide Nationals, the Circle K NHRA Four Wide Nationals take place in Charlotte at ZMAX Dragway. NASCAR will return to racing at Dover, and the next truck race will not happen until May the 6th, and that is in Kansas. So we'll be looking for you next time. Thank you for joining us.